humans and animals and plants were much larger before Noah's flood. Here is a dragonfly, and it's got a 50-inch wingspan. That's a fossilized dragonfly found in Italy.
I can't imagine that.
Can you imagine a dragonfly flying around in your sitting room?
No.
50 inches across. That would frighten the life out of me. Don't know about you.
Doesn't bother me.
Now, cockroaches, fossilized cockroaches, they found fossil cockroaches 18 inches long.
I certainly can't imagine that.
Can you imagine what it would feel like to have a cockroach 18 inches long
I can't imagine.
coming out of the cupboard underneath your kitchen sink?
No.
Fossils of grasshoppers have been found over 2 feet long.
Don't ask me to imagine it.
That would be huge. Can you imagine looking out onto your garden
No.
and seeing a 2-foot-long grasshopper?
No, I said I can't imagine it.
Well, that's what the fossil record actually shows.
I don't care.
So maybe we'd have to go on a grasshopper hunt.
I am not going to imagine this one.
Giant tarantula,
I'm not going to imagine it.
great big spiders, a foot long.
Don't make me imagine it.
Can you imagine that?
No!
Can you imagine that scuttling across your floor as you're watching this now? Cattails have been found 60 feet high. Can you imagine?
Nope.
Can you?
Shh. I'm going to get a glass of water. Don't say anything.
Can you imagine that? Grass 60 feet high in the sedimentary rock. Well, you're going to ask, what about dinosaurs?
We'll come on to that in a minute. First, what exactly is all this about? Well, Dr. Richard Kent explains that oxygen levels were much higher in the past, and that's given him a new theory about the dinosaurs. Oxygen levels were indeed much higher during the Carboniferous, but that was long before humans appeared on Earth. Nearly all of the unimaginably large insect fossils he's showing us were found in Carboniferous sedimentary rock. Why did they grow so large? Because insects don't have lungs. They take in oxygen through their skin. This isn't very efficient and limits their body size according to the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere. But Kent has to make all this fit the Bible, a contortion that requires his new theory about the dinosaurs.
I have with me tonight Anne Elk, Mrs. Anne Elk. Miss. You have a new theory about the Brontosaurus.
Now, here's just a drawing of an 80-foot-long Apatosaurus, also known as a Brontosaurus. And if you go to the Natural History Museum in London and look at the skeleton, you'll find that the skeleton of an Apatosaurus or a Brontosaurus has very, very small nostrils, about the same size of as a horse.
Well, Chris, you may well ask me what is my theory.
I am asking.
Well, very simply, before the flood, dinosaurs lived in a very, very high oxygen environment. But after the flood, they were in terrible trouble because their nostrils were simply not well adapted for breathing in a low oxygen environment. Now, I don't know if you've heard about, in England, we talk about St. George and the dragon. And dragons, not much is known about them.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that's known about dragons, Richard. They're not real. They're creatures from mythology. We know as much about dragons as we do unicorns, water nymphs, and flying reindeer. But come on, I want to hear your theory about the dinosaurs.
Now, I want you to imagine a dinosaur living in a low oxygen environment with huge, great lungs, about the size possibly of the room you're in right now, breathing through tiny, tiny little nostrils, which were not adapted for a low oxygen environment. Well, what would happen as that poor dinosaur was breathing heavily in and out through those very narrow nostrils? Well, I'll tell you what would happen, is the nostrils would catch on fire.
I'm sorry, my brain must have been numbed by listening to too many creationist videos. For a moment I thought you said that breathing heavily would cause their nostrils to catch on fire. You didn't say that, did you?
And maybe that's how we get legends of fire-breathing dragons. They're simply dinosaurs which are having trouble breathing and cause their nostrils to come alight and breathe out fire.
See, this bullshit sticks in even your throat. Well, of course, there's only one way to find out. Following the great success of our chickens laying eggs on the run experiment, I gave Dr. Kent free access to our nutty creationist ideas testing lab to test his theory that if you breathe in and out really quickly, your nostrils will catch fire. Hello everyone. We started our experiment on canines. As you can see, the theory definitely works on dogs. Here we see a young boy whose excessive masturbation has brought on unstoppable heavy breathing with devastating consequences. Can you imagine your pubic hair burning?
That would frighten the life out of me.
And it's well known that while recording Je t'aime moi non plus, Serge Gainsbourg breathed so heavily that his nostrils caught fire in the recording studio and had to be extinguished with a bottle of Pinot Meunier.
Je t'aime, oui je t'aime.
Merde, mes narines. And of course, during a stage performance of the song in 1976, Jane Birkin got so carried away that her entire bosom area spontaneously exploded. Even today, hundreds of people suffer from spontaneous combustus nostrali while listening to the song. So what have we learned from this? If nostrils ever do catch fire due to heavy breathing, it's been witnessed about as often as we've seen fire-breathing dragons. But before we go, there's just one other part of the Richard Kent dinosaur theory we have to flush down the toilet. Kent doesn't think every single dinosaur was finished off by combustible nostrils. Some of the dinosaurs had more robust nose parts and survived.
Now, there are still actually dinosaurs around the world. In 1959, a missionary in the Congo said that two pygmies had killed what they called a Mekele Mbembe. And there's a drawing which they made of the Mekele Mbembe, and it looks, to me, very much like a dinosaur.
A drawing that they made. Now, I don't want to belittle the artistic skills of the Congo pygmies, but I was sceptical of the claim that they drew this picture. Yes, I agree with Kent, it does look very much like a dinosaur, but it has all the hallmarks of a Western artist's impression. And it took less than a minute to check. I simply Googled Mekele Mbembe and came up with a number of drawings, including this one, the same picture. So then I checked the website where it had been posted and discovered that the artists were Earl and Bonnie Snellenberger. Are they by any chance Congo pygmies? No, they're illustrators for children's books. Children's creationist books, that is. Or to be more specific, children's creationist books that teach that dinosaurs are still alive today. So Kent's evidence that this animal might be a dinosaur because of the remarkable physiological characteristics found in the drawing is based on the fact that it was deliberately drawn that way by two creationist artists. We might as well conclude that people kept dinosaurs as pets, because that's what we see in the Flintstones.
Can you imagine what it would feel like?
No, but it's not real.